এমসিকিউ নিয়ে তোমাদের সমস্ত চিন্তা আজকে আমি দূর করে দেব, কারণ আজকের এই ভিডিওতে প্রোজ থেকে আমি যে কটা এমসিকিউ তোমাদের সাথে শেয়ার করব, প্রত্যেকটা এমসিকিউ যদি তোমরা ভালো করে তৈরি করে নাও তাহলে আর প্রোজ থেকে কোনো এমসিকিউ এর জন্য তোমাদের টেনশন থাকবে না, কোনো এমসিকিউ এর জন্য কোনো রকম তোমাদের চিন্তা করতে হবে না। সমস্তটা কিন্তু তোমরা এখান থেকেই ফাইনালি পুরোটা কমন পেয়ে যাবে, অর্থাৎ উচ্চ মাধ্যমিক 2025-এ অর্থাৎ এইচএস 2025-এ কিন্তু পুরোটা তোমরা কমন পেয়ে যাবে। ক্লিয়ার হলো? যারা বারবার করে বলছিলে দিদি এমসিকিউ কোনগুলো পড়বো, এমসিকিউ তো বুঝতেই পারছি না, এমসিকিউ এর সাজেশন দাও বা এমসিকিউ এর পিডিএফ দাও, তো তোমাদেরকে বলছি যদি তোমরা ইংলিশের কমপ্লিট সাজেশনের পিডিএফ নিতে চাও, এই ভিডিও ডেসক্রিপশন বক্সে আমার হোয়াটসঅ্যাপ নাম্বার দেওয়া রয়েছে, সেখানে কিন্তু তোমরা কন্ট্যাক্ট করলে তোমাদের কিন্তু পিডিএফগুলো কীভাবে পারচেস করবে সেটা বলে দেবো, এবং তারপর তোমরা পেমেন্ট করলে পিডিএফগুলো তোমাদের দিয়ে দেওয়া হবে। যারা যারা টেস্টে আমার সাজেশন থেকে কমন পেয়েছিলে আশা করি তোমরা পিডিএফগুলো ভালো করে ফলো করছো, আর যারা যারা এখনও অবধি পিডিএফ নাওনি কী করছো, পিডিএফগুলো নিয়ে নাও, কারণ তোমাদের জন্যই তো পিডিএফগুলো বানানো। আলটিমেটলি পরীক্ষার পরে গিয়ে যদি পিডিএফগুলো দেখো বা আমার চ্যানেলের সাজেশনগুলো দেখো তখন তো আর আফসোস করবে যে কেন এই সাজেশনটা ফলো করলাম না। তাই পরীক্ষায় যদি 90-এর উপরে বা 95-এর উপরে ইংলিশে নাম্বার তুলতে হয় তাহলে অবশ্যই করে কিন্তু সাজেশনগুলো নিয়ে নাও, পিডিএফগুলো পড়লে কিন্তু তোমাদেরই সাহায্য হবে। তো চলো প্রোজ থেকে সমস্ত এমসিকিউগুলো দেখে নেওয়া যাক। প্রথমে আসি দ্য আইজ অ্যাভিটে। দ্য ন্যারেটর হ্যাড দ্য ট্রেন কম্পার্টমেন্ট টু হিমসেলফ আপ টু রোহানা। দ্য ন্যারেটর অফ দ্য স্টোরি ওয়াজ গোয়িং টু দেহরা। আমি এখানে একটারও মানে বলছি না, শুধু উত্তরগুলো বলে যাচ্ছি, না হলে কিন্তু ভিডিওটা অনেক বড় হয়ে যাবে। দে সিমড ভেরি অ্যাংশিয়াস, হিয়ার দে রেফার্স টু প্যারেন্টস অফ দ্য গার্ল। আর যদি তোমাদের মনে হয় যে প্রোজের এই এমসিকিউ এর পিডিএফটা আমরা আলাদা করে নেব তাহলে সেটাও কিন্তু তোমরা নিতে পারো, আমাকে কিন্তু হোয়াটসঅ্যাপে কন্ট্যাক্ট করতে হবে তার জন্য। হার প্যারেন্টস ওয়ার ভেরি অ্যাংশিয়াস অ্যাবাউট হার কমফর্ট, হু গেভ দ্য ইনস্ট্রাকশনস টু দ্য গার্ল দ্য ওম্যান। অ্যাট দ্যাট টাইম দ্য ন্যারেটর ওয়াজ totally blind. The eyes of the narrator were sensitive only to light and darkness. The girl wore slippers. The narrator liked the sound of the girl's voice. Are you going all the way to Dehra? Who said these words? The narrator. The narrator was sitting in a dark corner. The narrator had observed that people with good eyesight often fail to see what is right in front of them. They have too much to take in. Here they refers to people with good eyesight. The narrator did not want to be discovered his blindness. The blind girl said that she would get off at Saharanpur. Who would receive the girl at Saharanpur? By her aunt. According to the narrator, aunts are usually formidable creature. The narrator is going to visit Dehra and then to Mussoorie. The blind girl said that she loved the hills. Next, the best time to visit the hills is October. In October, the sun is described as delicious. In October, the hills are covered with wild dahlias. How can one enjoy the beauty of the hills with a little brandy? In October, the roads of the hills are deserted. The narrator wondered if his words had touched her. The narrator thought if the girl thought him a romantic fool. The narrator moved along the berth easily. In the compartment, the narrator felt for the window ledge. Sitting beside the window, the narrator was making a pretense of studying the landscape. The narrator could hear the panting of the engine. In his mind's eye, the narrator could see telegraph posts. From the compartment, the narrator described the trees that seemed to be standing still. The girl asked the narrator if he saw any animals. The narrator knew that the forest near Dehra had এখানে কোনটা অপশন হবে, এখানে এটা হবে had hardly any animals. The remark "you have an interesting face" was a rather safe statement. Next, এখানে rather safe হবে না, quite daring statement হবে. Next, according to the narrator, few girls can resist flattery. Well, an interesting face can also be pretty. This is said by the narrator. The girl in the train compartment thought the narrator to be gallant and serious. The thought of laughter only made the narrator feel troubled and lonely. The girl could not bear to sit in a train for more than 2 or 3 hours. Next, the narrator was prepared to sit in the train compartment for almost any length of time just to listen to the girl. The girl's voice had the sparkle of a mountain stream. The memory of the brief encounter with a girl will stay with the narrator for the rest of the journey and for some time after. When the girl got ready to collect her things in the train, the narrator thought of her hair. A high-pitched female voice was heard when the train drew slowly into the station. It was the voice of her aunt. What tantalized the narrator was the perfume of her hair, the scent of a perfume that lingered in the compartment from the girl's hair. A man who got into the compartment at Saharanpur spoke apologetically. Once again I had a game to play. Here the narrator means to signify the game of deception. The man who had came into the compartment at Saharanpur was not as attractive as the girl. The narrator asked his new companion if he had noticed the girl's hair. The new passenger said that the girls had beautiful eyes, but she was blind. এরপর চলে আসো strong roots এ। The name of APJ Abdul Kalam's autobiography is Wings of Fire. APJ Abdul Kalam was born into a middle class Tamil family. APJ Abdul Kalam's birthplace was in the island town of Rameswaram. APJ Abdul Kalam's father had neither much formal education nor much wealth, who possessed great innate wisdom and true generosity of spirit, Jainuddin. APJ Abdul Kalam's father found an ideal helpmate in Ashiamma. One of the forebears of Kalam's mother was awarded by the British the title of Bahadur. Kalam had undistinguished looks. According to APJ Abdul Kalam, his father were tall and handsome. Kalam and his brothers and sisters lived in their ancestral house. The ancestral house of APJ Abdul Kalam was a fairly large Pakka house which was made of limestone and brick. Kalam's father led a very simple life. APJ Abdul Kalam's father used to avoid all inessential comforts and luxuries. Abdul Kalam's ancestral house was built in the mid-19th century. Next, in his childhood, Kalam was provided with all necessary food, medicine and clothes. Kalam usually ate with his mother. The Shiva temple made Rameswaram famous to pilgrims. The Shiva temple was about 10-minute walk from the Kalam's house. Next, Kalam's locality was predominantly Muslim. Kalam's father would take him to the mosque for evening prayers. Kalam's father went to a very old mosque every evening with his son Kalam. Kalam had no idea of the meaning of the prayer because it was chanted in Arabic. When Kalam's father came out of the mosque after prayer, people of different community would be sitting outside to meet him. When Kalam's father came out of the mosque, he saw people offering him bowls of water. The holy water sanctified by his father was carried for invalids. Pakshi Lakshmana Sastri was the high priest of the Shiva temple. According to Abdul Kalam's father, when we pray, we transcend our body and become a part of the cosmos. According to Kalam's father, the cosmos knows no division of wealth, age, caste or creed. Abdul Kalam's father would convey complex spiritual concepts in simple down-to-earth Tamil. According to Kalam's father, adversity always presents opportunities for introspection. The words of Abdul Kalam's father filled him with a strange energy and enthusiasm. According to Abdul Kalam's father, whenever people reach an impasse, they look for someone to help them. Kalam remembered his father starting his day at 4 a.m. Kalam remembers his father starting his day with namaz before dawn. The coconut grove where Abdul Kalam's father used to walk down every morning was about 4 miles. Kalam's father would go to their coconut grove and return with about a dozen coconuts. Kalam's father would maintain his routine bound life up to late 60s. Kalam tried to emulate his father in his own world of science and technology. Kalam had deep faith in the existence of a divine power. এরপর চলে আসো থ্যাংক ইউ ম্যামে। থ্যাংক ইউ ম্যামের কোশ্চেন আনসারগুলো এখানে আলাদা করে লেখা নেই, আমি ভিডিওর সাথে সাথেই বলে দিচ্ছি। The large purse that the woman had carried had a long strap. The pocketbook of Mrs. Jones contained everything except hammer and nails. Mrs. Bates was walking alone at 11 o'clock at night. The boy tried to snatch from the lady her purse. The boy lost balance and fell on the sidewalk. The boy lost balance because of his weight and the weight of the purse combined. The woman simply turned around and picked the boy up. The lady picked up the boy from the street by holding his shirt front. The woman shook the boy until his teeth rattled. The boy wanted Mrs. Jones to turn him loose. Roger wore blue jeans. The age of the boy who tried to snatch Mrs. Bates' purse was, এটা কিন্তু প্রচুর স্কুলের কোশ্চেনের মধ্যে দিয়েছিল, 14 or 15. Mrs. Jones wanted to teach Roger right from wrong. Next, the full name of Mrs. Jones was Mrs. Luella Bates Washington Jones. In thank you ma'am, sweat popped out on the boy's face. Half Nilsson is associated with the game of wrestling. The woman dragged the boy to her house to clean him up and cook him a meal. After getting to her door, Mrs. Bates first entered the hall হবে, first entered the hall. Roger could hear other people laughing and talking. Next, the boy's name was Roger. On entering her room, Mrs. Jones asked Roger to wash his face. The woman asked Roger to let the water run until it gets warm. Next, Mrs. Jones offered the boy এখানে supper রাতের খাবার. Roger tried to steal Mrs. Jones' purse because he wanted money for shoes. Next, the woman was sitting on a daybed. The lady wanted the boy to comb his hair so that he look presentable. In another corner of the room behind the screen was a gas plate and an ice box. The woman left her purse on the এখানে কি হবে daybed. The lady said she would make cocoa out of canned milk. Luella Bates offered Roger lima beans, ham, cocoa and cake. এখানে সবকটাই হবে, এখানে আর অপশন দিইনি, অপশনটা মুখস্থ করে নেবে তাহলেই হয়ে যাবে. Mrs. Jones worked at a hotel beauty shop. The cake that was offered Roger cost 10 cents. Mrs. Jones gave the boy, এখানে কি হবে, Mrs. Jones gave the boy $10. The last word Roger could manage to say to the lady was thank you ma'am. Next, এরপর চলে আসো 3 questions এ. The Tsar asked the hermit 3 questions. The bearded man was wounded by the Tsar's bodyguard. The hermit was frail and weak. The hermit received none but common folk. The wounded man was actually the enemy of the Tsar. The most necessary man is he with whom you are. The king was not satisfied with the answer as they were different. The king dug the beds to help the hermit. The bearded man asked for forgiveness. Blood was flowing from the bearded man's stomach. The king sent a physician to look after him. According to the hermit, the most important person is the person you are at a particular moment. The hermit was widely renowned for his wisdom. The Tsar had excused the bearded man's brother. 3 question is written by Leo Tolstoy. এই এত অবধি কিন্তু তোমাদের প্রোজের কোশ্চেন. যে কটা প্রশ্ন বললাম প্রত্যেকটা প্রশ্ন যদি ভালো করে তৈরি করে নাও তাহলে কিন্তু আর প্রোজ থেকে কোনো রকম কোনো এমসিকিউ নিয়ে কোনো চিন্তা থাকবে না. নেক্সট ভিডিওতে পোয়েম থেকে কোন ব্রড কোশ্চেন মানে এমসিকিউ তোমরা করবে, অর্থাৎ মাল্টিপল চয়েস কোশ্চেন করবে, সেটা আমি তোমাদের সাথে নেক্সট ভিডিওতে শেয়ার করবো. আর যদি তোমাদের মনে হয় যে আমার কাছ থেকে তোমরা সাজেশনগুলো পারচেস করবে HS 2025 ইংলিশের কমপ্লিট সাজেশন, তাহলে এই ভিডিও ডিসক্রিপশন বক্সে আমার হোয়াটসঅ্যাপ নাম্বার দেওয়া আছে, সেখানে কিন্তু এখনই কন্ট্যাক্ট করো. দেখা হবে নেক্সট ভিডিওতে. টিল দেন বাই.